Welcome back, crew. It's May, and we are diving into the super heroic hijinks of the Champions Complete Tabletop RPG by Hero Game Systems 6th edition. Today, we're going to be getting into one of my favorite pieces of learning any new system. We're going to be building a superhero utilizing the Champions Complete rule set. For anybody that's new to the channel, I truly feel the best way to learn a new rule set, especially one that can be a little crunchy like this one, is to build a PC utilizing them. Because by the time you go through and learn how to build all the pieces of a PC, you're usually going to have a good feel of what the system values, kind of where the attributes mean, how to make rolls, and just a lot of the cool pieces that go along with any system. Usually, making that PC will give you at least a overview and highlights of what you need to know. Even if you're going to be a game master, I'm always usually in the game master's chair, and building that PC lets you know what's going on, helps you answer core questions for your PCs when they go through it. It just makes life a lot easier. So today we're going to be going through that aspect. Typically, we do have our games of the month with this one. Unfortunately, we are going to have to postpone the Champions one. Initially, we're going to do that May 25th. A bit of trouble recruiting for this one, but stay tuned. I'm not sure when we're going to do it. We're definitely going to have a game of the month, and as always, give away a free PDF copy of the system. So stay tuned. I don't know yet, but definitely keep an eye out. We'll make sure we get a new date out there and figure out how that's going to look. Yeah, today we're going to be building our PC. My initial concept for the adventure was going to be an X-Men adventure. So we're going to be building a mutant hero utilizing the Champions rule set. And as always, with a system like this, especially one that is classless, where you use point buy or character points to build out your hero, one of the big pieces is before we even start looking at the attributes, is to define your concept because you can get lost pretty easily if you just got to go through and buy each thing as it comes up. So for our concept, we're going to be building the Emerald Nova. He's a mutant hero of the X-Men. He's pretty cocky, very brash, and very confident in his own abilities and his powers. His power set is going to include manipulation of solar energy. So he shoots kind of solar flames out of his hands. He can fly by manipulating the energy, and is very resistant to energy just due to how he can manipulate and absorb it within himself. And then we're going to kind of go through and use the champions rule set to build him out. So let's dive into the PDF. And we're going to take a look. First, we're going to go to page 9 because this is one of the biggest pieces if you're starting in a new champions game that you'll want to talk to your game master about. Because within this system, there are no levels. You get character points, which are the points used to buy attributes based on the kind of the type of character, type of hero that your game master wants you to build. So there's a ton of ones on here, but we're going to focus on the one that's kind of the standard build for the champion system. And I know some may be surprised that the standard build's a bit higher up on the list, but this is going to be the standard important superhero build is kind of like the standard for a superhero. If you're looking for a Spider-Man or for X-Men like a Wolverine, this is going to be the point you need to build that hero. So we're going to do that. This is their common level to held one. So we're going to make Emerald Nova a standard superhero, giving him 400 character points, as well as 75 in complications points. And we're going to get into both of those as we go through. One thing I do want to point out, because this one threw me for a loop, and if anybody's coming from Mutants and Mastermind, some of the other hero systems, it will probably give you a little bit of a, not deja vu, but a little disorientation, we'll say. Uh, there are no hard baked in rules for how powerful your PC can be outside of these character. So if you're a standard superhero, there's no restrictions on how much you can put into your attack power or how much you can put into your defense. It's just all restricted by the amount of character points you have and restrictions your game master puts in. So game masters with this, from what I've read, are supposed to be a little bit more proactive in making sure that their players aren't going through and building crazy stuff. Versus having kind of built-in restrictions to, let's say, pick on mutants and masterminds, where your power level determines how high your attack and defense and all of those can be by ratio. Something that threw me for a loop, and I wanted to call it out just so anybody who's building a PC knows that. So let's dive into character creation. The biggest thing that we're going to do now is we're going to go through and build our attributes. So we're kind of starting at the top. And with this system, you got the core attributes. So you've got strength, dexterity, speed, tons of different things, constitution, intelligence, ego. And we're going to go through and build our PC. So strength, super easy. It's gonna be how much you can lift. They've got a cool lifting chart in there. Our guy, he's just an average dude. So we're gonna use 10 as his strength. And one thing actually I'm gonna call out here too, because this is something I found after I got through building my first PC and had to go through and switch up a little bit. So go check this page out before page 21 in the Champions Complete book. Check this out before you get too far into building a PC, because these are the maximum values you can have for your PC utilizing starting characteristics. So just kind of make sure you keep that in mind because I wanted him to be a real offensive powerhouse. So I put him at a 10, spending some points there. You only go to an 8. So check that out. I kind of wish a little bit of an earlier thorn. I wish they put that before that section, before we build the attributes in. But our guy, he's not super strong, so we're going to give him a base strength of 10. He is going to be pretty dexterous. Dexterity is also used for an initiative in this system too. So we're going to give him a 15 there. And with these two, they all have point totals that they call. So let's pick on strength. Strength has one character point for one level of strength. And you see, this is the table with all the cool things you can lift. So our guy is going to be a 10 strength, which determines your damage too. So for certain things, so he's got 2d6 damage. He's an adult human. If you wanted to go up to 20 strength, you could be lifting chariots and grizzly bears. And remember, you can use powers too to go over these. So I remember people probably wondering, oh, it's 20, you can only lift a grizzly bear. If you could use your powers to enhance these beyond reasonable limits, we'll say. Dexterity is a little bit more expensive, so we didn't spend any points on strength. We did spend 5 point, or we did buy 5 points of dexterity, spending 10 character points to get that. And you see that in terms of initiative rolls, as well as some other pieces there too. Agility skills, Constitution. He's just kind of an average guy, so we're going to keep him at 10 for Constitution. No points spent. This is going to usually similar Constitution rules to D&D, resistance to poison, so on and so forth. There, so he's keeping him at a regular amount for that. After that, we've got our intelligence. I want him to be pretty crafty. He's cocky, but he's still pretty smart. So I'm going to spend 5 points in his intelligence. Intelligence is 1 point per CP. So we're gonna get 5 points there to spend. Ego, this is your willpower, general strength of mind. This is another 5 points here. He's very strong willpower. He thinks a lot of himself. So we wanted to make sure to bring that in. Same thing with presence, which is kind of like your charisma. So we did spend another 5 points there, putting both of those at 15 for his build. Oh, yep, 15 for his build there. Perfect. After that, we're going to get into some of the combat stats for this. So let's skip over to that. So with this, you've got a lot of different stats in this game. So you've got your OCV, which is offensive combat value, defensive combat value. You've got like mental combat, like if you're like a telepath or somebody waging war that way. You've got your speed. We're gonna go through all these one by one. So you're gonna be a blaster type. So I wanted him to have a good OCV. So we're gonna buy 8 points, which is the maximum you could spend there to make sure he can blast out and just wreck stuff with his solar beams. We're not going to touch defensive combat value or mental combat value or mental defensive combat value. We are going to bump speed up by 1. And I should mention too for the OCV, it's 5 points for per 1 point of OCV. So we spent 5. So that's 25 of our points gone. And I'm going to show you the Google Docs thing I use to keep track of the points. There's a cool Google Sheets there. I highly recommend you use either the Google Sheets or some of the virtual tabletop ones just to keep track of your point spend because you spend a lot of points here. So we're not touching those. We're bumping up speed by 1. Speed, you'll see, is 10 points per 1 speed. So we're spending 10 to get that 1 there. Speed in this one determines how many phases you have each turn, so how many different actions and things like that you can do per turn. We're going to do a heavy dive of that in our mechanics video this Saturday. I still need to do a little bit more there too, just to get that full grasp of how those phases work. But speed's going to give you some more options when it comes to that. The physical defense, I bumped his physical defense up a little bit. I bumped him to five there. So I spent was that 1 point I think on that for that, or 3 points on that, or three physical defense points, spending three CP to get that. Energy defense is where he's got it at. He's an energy builder, so we're spending 8 points there and for 8 character points as well as eight skill points to bump that up. And then finally, we're going to leave recovery alone and leave most everything else on this side alone outside of endurance. You started at 20 endurance. Endurance with this kind of reflects your ability to act. Whenever um, you use your powers or you exert your strength, you bump down your endurance. He's going to be blasting all out with his solar beam, so I wanted to have a lot of endurance. So I bumped that up to 50, the maximum you can do, spending one CP for five endurance on that side. So got him a pretty good level there, so you can make sure he can hang for a little bit longer. Sweet. So now that we've got that in there, we are going to go to our skills. So with those, there's other skills that are pieces in there that you can bump. For our build, we didn't really need to worry about the other aspects there. You see, there's a lot of cool rules around things like that involve these attributes. We're going to take a little deeper dive into those into a mechanics video, which is going to be split into two parts: one for combat and then one for just core mechanics of the system. So skills with this are different things your character could do, fairly similar to other RPGs, but they are a little bit more specific here. So with these, each of them, there's five different skill categories. Agility skills, which can be based off of your dex, or have your dex as an attribute. Background skills, which would be like things and knowledge that aren't based or tied to a specific skill, but are tied to some knowledge or resources within your background that you have. Combat skills, self-explanatory. Intellect skills, so these would be kind of like your thinking skills, analyzing pieces. They will be based off of your intelligence. And interact skills, which are going to be based off of your presence. Usually, these are going to be charisma style skills, persuade, all of those. Skill enhancers are another piece too. So with these, you could buy like a group of skill enhancers. So if you were like wanted to be a jack of all trades, all the different professional skills, you'd be able to spend three CP for that enhancer. But then points you spend on that skill are -1 in cost. But if they are one already, it's still going to be one. Unfortunately, you don't get them for free. So those are kind of cool ways if you know you're going to want kind of a set of skills like scientist or jack of all trades. You can go through, spend the 3 points and get a good discount across the board. It also gives you a better roll for those two because you'll be rolling 11 minus your skill rank for those ones, anything that falls within their base level. So kind of a good deal there. And as I said, we're going to do a whole mechanics video on how those skill rolls function and how that will play. Also, with these, every character gets the everyman skills. And with those ones, you're going to start in the familiarity category. Familiarity means you're going to roll 8 minus your skill roll for them. So with that, you've got acting, climbing, like the typical package to be a person within the world. So you're going to get start with the familiarity in those. You can still bump those up if you'd like to, but it's just kind of your baseline for it. You see with the skill roll table, you've got familiar, which is like rudimentary, and the higher you go, because when this minus is out, the better you'll be in that side. So familiar all the way up to incredibly skilled at the 20 or more. So gives you a little bit of a baseline there. So for our guy, Emerald Nova, we actually don't have any skills that I wanted for him. His powers eat up a lot of his build. So we didn't take any skills for him on that side. But actually, no, sorry, we did take skills. Scratch that. We took two skills that relate to combat as well as his power modifiers. So let's get to those skills. So the first one we took is the combat skill level. And basically, this is going to be used for two things. So you could either use it for, and you could buy points in this, and you could use them to add to your the hit bonus, or you could use them to add to extra damage. If you're using extra damage, you need at least 2 points to be able to add that extra damage. Or if you're using them to hit, it's 1 point per one plus one to hit. Now, cool thing with this is you can buy these points and then determine during your combat, do you want to be more accurate or do you want to be more damaging? So for our Emerald Nova, I wanted him to have a pretty strong damage point for those. So we are going to spend 4 points, or we're going to buy 4 points of CSL to make sure that comes true. So with that, he would have the option of doing +2 to hit and then +1 or damage boost, or all 2 damage boost or +4 to hit. So he gets some cool options on that side. And the way this is broken down is you could have them based off of either like a specific element. If you want to use one type of gun, one type of blast, one type of unarmed combat, whatever you're doing there, you could pay for the specific, or you could do small groups to have kind of a range of different things you can qualify for there. Large group, all the way up to being proficient in all hand to hand and range combat, or just being proficient in all combat. These do modify the cost though. So if you went all combat, each of those CSV or SLs, wow, hard to say, you would have to spend 10 points for. So for our guy, that'd be 40 points. We're going to do a small group. We probably could have gotten away with specific, but I wanted to give him a little wiggle room. So we're going to spend 4 points there for 12 points total or 12 character point cost total to provide 4 points of CSL. So that's one of our skills. Last big skill, we're going to scroll down a bit to powers. And this is one that kind of takes some DM or game master, I can say in this case, discretion and kind of what you can do with this. Basically, powers is something that you could want to use as a skill. Kind of utilizing your powers a little bit out or inside their bounds, but outside the what you bought for them. So I wanted my guy to be an energy manipulator, and I found the best way to do that would be the power skill. So we spent I forgot how much we spent. Let me look at my little sheet here. We spent 3 levels there to give him a little broader kit on that side. And you get +2, or so if you spend first one to get the skill, so you spend 3 CP to this initially acquire the skill, and then you spend 2 CP each level after that to buy it. So we bought him 1 level, and then, or we bought him the skill, then we spent 2 levels afterwards to get him to where he needed to be. So those are the skills we bought for our guy. Next, we're going to get into. So before you go into powers, there is a step in between with perks and talents. Perks are kind of cool things that your character can have. These can be things from like owning your own jet, like your Batman, your Batmobile, your Batplane. All of these could be in perks, as well as contacts you may have. Like, let's say you've got a hookup in the FBI. You could buy a contact on this side, and you could spend different points depending on what they've got. You could have a follower if you want to have your own sidekick. This is how you build your own sidekick. And then money, Bruce Wayne. You want to have your money. You spend some points. You can be filthy rich, unlimited income. So these kind of are all the different things that modify your character outside of what they can do. These are all going to be external things that you can buy for your PC. Talents. These are kind of in between powers and skills. Kind of a weird spot on this one. So I don't think we have any for the Emerald Nova. We don't. But you can do things like buy absolute time sets, extra animal friendship, all these cool things that are close to powers, especially if you build a martial artist guy or guy that does a lot of hand combat. A lot of the cool stuff will be in this side. Well, let's get in the meat of it. If you wanted to play Champion's hero system, you most likely wanted to build powers and give your hero some cool stuff they can do with their powers. So with our guy, we wanted to be a solar manipulator. We've got part of that covered. We wanted him to be able to make sure he had some hefty blast, and we wanted him to be able to fly and be a bit energy resistant. So we're going to scroll down here, and so shows you how to buy powers. Each of the powers will have a cost associated with them. Similar to Mutants and Masterminds, you can add on different advantages or complications to your power to either add or reduce cost, and then you times that by how many levels you want to have within the character. So with this, it also gives you an endurance cost. So we're going to take a look at our different power categories and see what we want to build. So we're not going to do any adjustment powers on that side. Didn't really fit what we're going for. Last is going to fit our best for our kind of energy blast. We're going to go to page 52 for that one. And then we're going to go to page 50, where to go? 83 for our resistance protection. And then for flight, we're going to go to page 69. So let's go to page 52 first. And this could be using the blast power. So you see it gives a breakdown here. It's going to be 5 character points per 1d6 of blast. I wanted it to be a hefty blaster. So with this, we are going to spend 5 levels. So there'll be 3 points. Oh, so we're going to spend 3 levels, spending 5 points apiece to give us 3d6 blast power for the cost of 15 character points. And with this, you can define what they look like. We're going to say they're solar blast, kind of spitting in the fire of the sun at whoever he's fighting. Sweet. So we've got our blast in there. Let's go to page 63 for our flight. Oops, I think I messed up the page there. So let me scroll a little bit. We'll get to the flight side. One of the things I noticed with flight, and we actually I had to readjust my points a little bit to make sure I got a little bit better in that. So you get to spend 1 character point per 1 meter of flight. So looking at if you go back to that starting table, you usually start with running at 12 meters. So it's hard to make flight fast initially. At least and definitely somebody in the comments correct me if I did that wrong. So with this, I wanted to be pretty quick with this flight, definitely at least faster than somebody running. So we spent 15 points of flight on that side. So oh sorry, no, we spent 30 points of flight. That's we initially spent 15. We spent 30 points on flight, so he'd be able to quickly zip around the battlefield. Now, last thing before we wrap up the power section, resistance protection. So resistance protection is a little bit of a unique one. You can buy the protection, but you buy it per a specific type of defense. So you remember with our guy, we started him with 10 energy deflection, or energy defense. So I want him to have more energy defense on that side. So we're going to spend 3 CP for 2 points of defense, and we're going to buy, I think, 10 points 10 points or sorry, 5 points of defense for 10 points of resistance damage. So we're going to do that. So that will cost us 15 character points since it's 5 points or 5 rounds of resistance defense, which is going to give us 10 points of that defense for 3 CP a pop. So 15 character points there. And we're throwing it all into energy defense so our guy can be super tanky when it comes to fighting off other people's energy blast. So, last big thing before we wrap up, we've got our powers, we've got our skills, our enhancements, all of those. We're going to try some complications. So complications are different flaws your character may have, or the way the people may view him within the world. So we're buying two. He's a mutant. He's a mutant hero of the X-Men, so he is hunted. And I put people as powerful as the PC are hunting him. So that gives us 10 complication points. Remember, we've got 75 that we're supposed to spend here. I put very frequently because they never really stop hunting the mutants, sentinels, the purifiers, whoever is always after these guys. And then I also spent another 5 too because they've got the government's often hunting them, so they've got extensive non-combat influence as well. So that gives us 25 total complication points. The last big thing, we're not going to spend all of our 75 here, but the last thing I put on there is the social complication. One of the big allegories for X-Men is kind of how it relates to social issues. Being a mutant carries a huge stigma with it. So we're going to give him a 10, because it's going to be coming up very frequently. Oh, sorry, we gave him a 15. We gave him the very frequently for that. And then we're to give him a 10 severe extreme risk of death or injury due to these complications. So far, we've spent 50 hero points, or complication points, I should say, on our guy. We'd have to spend 25 more to qualify for our level of herodom, but we want to spend everybody's time on that side. Sweet. So we've went through and built our hero. Let me show you our Google Docs that I use to keep track of everything and help me keep track of the point spend as well. Throw that up on the screen so you guys can take a quick look. And I'll throw the link in the description of the video too, so everybody has it. But you see, the nice thing with this is it keeps track of your rolls and point totals, and you'll see we spent all 140 of our hero points as well there. And this makes it nice and easy. Definitely, even if you want to play this in person, pen and paper style, I recommend doing this through either the Google Sheet or something that keeps track of your point spend because it could be a little bit of plussing and minusing there, especially if you want to tweak it after seeing how certain things play out. Thank you guys for hanging out. I know this was definitely a little crutch to the system, I'll say, but it's cool. We were able to build out exactly how we wanted to have the Emerald Nova appear and be the powers that are associated with them. So, for anybody that plays Champions, shout out some of your favorite character builds and descriptions, some cool, unique aspects you've done with building powers. For anybody that's new, throw in some questions you may have about this system. This one's definitely a little bit more dense, a little more crunchy. So I'm happy to go through and see if I can figure them out myself too. But thanks for tuning in. Make sure to come by this weekend as we go into the core mechanics of the system. We'll probably start with the basic mechanics this weekend, doing combat next week. But thanks everybody for hanging out and getting to see the Emerald Nova build, and we'll see you all next time.